With the Supreme Court ending a federal ban on sports betting, the floodgates have opened for some or all of the 50 states to legalize wagers on athletic events. With this brave new world of gaming, we've seen extra focus on players, officials, spreads, lines, and money, all as leagues, law enforcement, and sportsbooks try to ensure that sports gambling stays incorruptible. Well, good luck with that. Ever since professional sports were created, players have been betting on games, and gamblers have been finding ways to infiltrate the games to shift the odds in their favor. And one of the greatest hits revolves around Steven Hedake Smith, one of the greatest prospects in the NBA. So join us today as we explain how this NBA prospect got caught point shaving. So who is Steven Hedake Smith? Steven Hedake Smith is the name being searched by hoop fans ever since Netflix released their sports scandal documentary, Bad Sports. In a limited series documentary, the premiere episode focuses upon the scam in college basketball by bookies and players, one of which is Steven Hedake Smith. The entire episode focuses upon the scoring prowess and dominance of the youngster and where he could have reached in the NBA. In addition, his blistering performances in contests wherein point shaving was referred. Episode 1, named Hoop Schemes, narrates how Steven Smith ruined his career after indulging in a point shaving scandal. Safe to say, according to that particular episode, Steven was one of the best point guards in college basketball. He joined the Arizona State University and registered himself as the highest scorer until the scandal scuffed his entire career. The case of Arizona State. Through renovation and coaching changes, the ground floor of the Ed and Nadine Carson Student Athlete Center at Arizona State University has withstood the test of time. The museum is designed to chronicle proud moments in ASU athletics history, highlighting alumni such as Houston Rockets guard James Harden and former San Francisco Giants outfielder Barry Bonds. But hidden among the numerous players and glass cases stocked with memorabilia lies history buried in the shadows of infamy. 25 years ago, the ASU men's basketball program was at the center of a point shaving scandal, one that has triggered new discussion in light of the Supreme Court's decision to clear the way for states to legalize sports betting. If gambling on colleges is allowed in 20 or 30 states, there is probably a 100% probability of a point shaving scandal at some school, Tom McMillan, CEO of Lead One, an organization for athletic directors, said in April 2018 at a Sports Lawyers Association conference. Under coach Bill Frieder, the 1993-94 men's basketball team was poised to compete for a spot in the NCAA tournament, led by senior guard Steven Hedake Smith, a potential first-round draft pick. Smith entered the season as the leading returning scorer in the Pacific 10 Conference. As good a scorer as Smith was, his betting luck wasn't. Accruing debt of at least $10,000 owed to ASU student and campus bookmaker Benny Silman, Smith didn't need much convincing when an opportunity to cover his losses presented itself. "We agreed that I could repay my debt to him by fixing the basketball game," Smith said in court documents from his plea agreement. In return for fixing the game, Silman agreed to pay me about $20,000 per game, determining the betting odds. In sports betting, odds are determined based upon the likelihood a team or individual competitor will win against an opponent. From there, a point spread is established to gauge by how large a margin a bookmaker believes one team can win for betting purposes. Point shaving requires one team, favorite or underdog, to intentionally alter the outcome of a game. Smith's case involved ASU winning games by fewer points in which it was heavily favored. The introduction of Joseph Gagliano, a 25-year-old entrepreneur, into the fold enabled Silman's operation to reach new heights. How the point shaving scheme worked. Any good surgeon can vouch for the importance of being meticulous. From sanitizing to preparation to execution, one mistake can impact an entire procedure. The same goes for fixing a basketball game. After examining the Sun Devils schedule, Gagliano decided on a matchup with Oregon State. The game was in temp just 3 days before the Super Bowl, and ASU was favored by 14.5 points. Under the instruction of Silman and Gagliano, Smith was to provide a 6-point victory. Bets would be made on ASU to win while failing to cover the spread, meaning both the Sun Devils and bettors could come out on top. Gagliano arrived in Las Vegas with $500,000 to wager, enlisting the help of his father and 2 others to unload the money before tip-off, he said. Using more than 30 sportsbooks, the group bet in increments of $9,900 per ticket to avoid filling out a currency transaction report, a red flag warning to the International Revenue Service that allows the IRS to examine the tax returns of a customer. But more importantly, to prevent betting lines from shifting. Back in that day, there were many hole-in-the-wall sportsbooks out there that are certainly not there now because they're all corporate, Gagliano said. There was certainly a lot of adrenaline, a lot of planning. Aside from betting $500,000 in one afternoon, much of the planning revolved around Smith's play, though even he couldn't plan for a more well-timed performance. Defensively, Smith intentionally conceded additional space to the shooters, he later acknowledged, allowing the Beavers to score often and keep the game interesting. He attributed his own offensive prowess as the key to knowing how much room to give. Usually, that would draw the wrong kind of attention to him, but it was largely overlooked as the senior scored a career-high 39 points, draining 10 three-point shots. ASU covered with the 6-point win in Game 1, and the fix was back in play against Oregon. With betting that exceeded $1 million this time, the Sun Devils won by 6 in consecutive games, successfully fixing both contests. In total, around $3.3 million was won in 3 days, with profits exceeding $2.5 million in cash, Gagliano wrote in his book. It was really easier to blend in because there was so much activity in the sportsbook with the Super Bowl going on that weekend, Gagliano said. Connecting the dots. People were starting to connect the dots. Dots I didn't want to be connected, especially from the types of people connecting them, Gagliano said in his book, No Gray Areas. With gamblers pleased about 3 wins and being 5.1 million up, ASU fell out of the NCAA tournament contention with one final game on the agenda, Washington. Confidence shifted to doubt, and Gagliano was uneager to bet. When he started making his rounds through various sportsbooks, his uneasiness grew. Days earlier against USC, the $2.5 million he placed on the Trojans dramatically impacted the point spread, dropping it from 9.5 points to 5. Against Washington, he couldn't help but notice students in Sun Devils apparel lined up across betting windows down the Las Vegas Strip, plummeting a 12-point spread favoring ASU down to 3 on the same day. Word had spread on campus about the fix. In fact, this game generated so much action that, according to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Jimmy Vaccaro, a former sportsbook director at the Mirage, notified the Nevada Gaming Control Board regarding an influx of bets being made on the ASU game. Gagliano said that the meeting between ASU and Washington remains the largest one-day movement on a betting line. It was just too obvious, Jay Cornegay said. When someone wants to make a bet and they don't care what the line is, that's a red flag. Cornegay, the vice president of Las Vegas Hotel and Casino Superbook, noted that the fix might not have been discovered if bets were not taken on ASU that particular game. An 18-point win for the Sun Devils well exceeded the original point spread, emptying the pockets of those who bet against ASU. But the losses sustained were incomparable to the ensuing federal investigation. Amid the initial allegations swirling around the program, Frieder remained accessible and open, but the gravity of the situation was evident, taking a toll on the coach. Arizona Republic reporter Kent Summers recalls Frieder reaching out late at night to discuss the matter. Frieder talked about it several times in his weekly press conference right after the news broke, Summers said. He went on with this long, bizarre monologue. But within a few years, allegations turned into trials, culminating in the sentencing of Smith and Silman, among others. Once primed for a promising NBA career, Smith went undrafted in 1994, with his lone chance coming in the form of 2 10-day contracts with the Dallas Mavericks in 1997 before his sentencing, totaling 1 year in prison, 3 years probation, and an $8,000 fine. By that time, Frieder had moved on from ASU. He did not coach again. After being caught in the point-shaving scandal, the dreams of the star of ASU were halted as he could never be a part of the NBA after that. It is demeaning to see that a talent like that never reaches its rightful place. Since admitting that he ruined his career, he has recently worked with a nonprofit organization to help underprivileged kids and constantly teaches young kids to stay away from gambling and betting.